South Korean presidents, like other presidents, have immunity from most crimes, but not from the crime of insurrection. And the argument is that in trying to oppose martial law, stifling the National Assembly, shutting down media and so on as he intended, that this was effectively treason. So he's also being investigated for that. And I think most people expect he'll be charged for that quite soon. But none of this is going to wrap up soon. And, he does have many supporters who are extremely angry about it. So when I talked to them today, many of them saying they would fight on and were predicting all kinds of dire things, conflict, civil war. It probably won't come to that, but stability is still a good way off for South Korea.
You remember the chaos in South Korea in December after the President Yoon Suk Yeol declared martial law. That was overturned quickly, and in the past few hours he has been arrested. Richard Lloyd Parry is the Times' Asia editor and joins us from Seoul. Good morning to you, Richard.
Hello there.
What are the circumstances of the arrest?
Well, they tried to arrest him 12 days ago, people may remember, very unsuccessfully. 150 police and investigators turned up and were blocked, rather remarkably, by President Yoon's presidential guards, who, although they are servants of the government, had chosen to be loyal to him rather than to these arrest warrants that were being presented by the police. So today they came mob-handed. There were more than 3,000 police around the area. 1,200 went into the compound. And perhaps not surprisingly, this time they got through. They had to cut through barbed wire. They had to use ladders to clamber over buses that had been placed as obstacles. And eventually they got into the residential compound. And after 2 or 3 hours of a kind of negotiate, where it wasn't really a negotiation, talking to President Yoon, they arrested him, led him out, drove him south of Seoul, and he's now being questioned on suspicion of the crime of insurrection for this incident in the beginning of December, where for a few hours at least, he tried to impose martial law on South Korea.
And what kind of support does he have, if any, amongst the general public?
Well, there were lots of very noisy supporters of his in the streets around the court who I was talking to. They'd set up kind of little stages. They were giving speeches. They were waving placards. And when you talk to them, they're determined that this is an outrage. It's unjust. It's the work of communists, Chinese infiltrators. There's a good deal of paranoia there, but also genuine resentment what's being done to this man who they respect and who they elected. But polls suggest that overall, most South Koreans, probably 2/3 or more, really want him to go. This decision to try and impose martial law on a very, mature and well-established democracy was extremely bizarre. Very difficult to understand. It's hard to see how he thought he could get away with it in this country. And most people have decided that enough's enough and, he's got to go down.
So what might happen to him and what happens to what happens politically now? Is this kind of bump in the road over now? Is everything calm?
No, not at all. There's a long and tumultuous process to be gone through. There are two separate things going on. He was impeached by the National Assembly last month. This week, the Constitutional Court has begun hearings, an impeachment trial, at the end of which it will decide either to give him his job back or to impeach him and sack him as president. If that happens, then they've got to have a new presidential election in 2 months. There'll be a new government, new president. But separately, there's this criminal investigation going on. That's what this arrest was about today. So South Korean presidents, like other presidents, have immunity from most crimes, but not from the crime of insurrection. And the argument is that in trying to oppose martial law, stifling the National Assembly, shutting down media and so on as he intended, that this was effectively treason. So he's also being investigated for that. And I think most people expect he'll be charged for that quite soon. But none of this is going to wrap up soon. and he does have many supporters who are extremely angry about it. So when I talked to them today, many of them saying they would fight on and were predicting all kinds of dire things, conflict, civil war. It probably won't come to that, but stability is still a good way off for South Korea.
Richard, thank you for that. That's Richard Lloyd Parry. He is the Times' Asia editor. He was speaking to us from Seoul.
윤석열이나 밟아. 내란 속에 밟아. 윤석열이나 밟아. 저기야. 내란 속에 밟아. 템포하라.